Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Unity Santa Fe. My name's Tom McCrory, and I am grateful for this opportunity to be your platform assistant this morning. And so, welcome to our Unity interspiritual community. Unity, of course, unless you're here for the first time, is a positive path for spiritual living that enables each of us to create a more meaningful and abundant life by applying practical spiritual principles. And it's our heart's desire to support you in knowing your magnificence and your unlimited potential to live your life centered in peace, wisdom, and love. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce Reverend Liz. I'll give a brief introduction, but I'm going to let her do most of the talking after that. So first let me say thank you for being here. We are so excited and appreciative that you're here. Reverend Liz, by the way, is a dynamic speaker, teacher. She's an ordained Centers for Spiritual Living minister who's just, I think it's one class left, to become also a Unity ordained minister, and that should take place early next year. She's actually been a minister in various churches for the last 14 plus years, currently at Fort Collins, Colorado. We were hoping her beloved wife, Reverend Divine Joy Young, would be here, but alas, this last week, their cat, Spartacus Lovebug, Spartacus Lovebug, suffered the unwise ingestion of a non-food item requiring emergency surgery. So Reverend Divine is home with, it's kids. What are you going to do with them? Reminds me of the time Stephen stuck Play-Doh up his nose. Okay, enough of that. So we are sending healing thoughts to both Spartacus and Reverend Divine, who has to actually watch her 24/7. Reverend Liz's passion is helping people awaken to the truth of who they are, of who we are as spiritual beings, and extra bonus, she brings love and humor. So Reverend Liz, please come on up and let us have it.
Okay, I'm going to rearrange the furniture just a little bit. OMG. Are you real? The real deal? Yeah, I think so. And to those folks online and to my beautiful wife, thank you for your presence, for being who you are and being here today. It's very exciting. And oh my gosh, we got some music in the house. This is blessed. And I just want to take you in to my heart chakra, place where connection happens. What a blessing, what a joy, what a gift I am having in I call it the Santa Fe Love Adventures. That's what I've chosen for this to be about, and because it's all about the love. I want to give a shout out, and I'm so glad that we gave appreciation to the search team because they have been off the charts in what they have been doing. Please make sure to thank them personally if you can in any way, because they deserve your appreciation. The board as well, right? So let's give some love to the board. To the staff, to the folks that are behind the scenes, always making things work. Grateful for anyone who is here for the first time as well. I believe there will be some words spoken to you all folks. I want to give thanks to Reverend Eliza for her participation with you. I've been watching her online and how she's been speaking with you, cultivating the ground for your next right and perfect minister. I want to give thanks to Brenda Lynn, Reverend Brenda Lynn, for 27 years of service, and what a love. And I've watched her as well. I also want to just honor for a moment Jude as well. She is here actually today. I know that on the other side of the veil, she's participating. And I don't know her personally, but I have been aware of her presence. So let us just take a moment to honor our ancestors to our teachers and our guides, the ones that are past, present, and there is no time in spirit. This side of the veil and the other side of the veil. That we are never alone. So, blessed be. Blessed be this morning. Blessed be this day. And when I was told by Wanda what the theme was for today, following spirit no matter what, I almost didn't believe her. I'm like, are you serious? Because I'm like, that's my life. That is who I am. I'm following spirit no matter what. And I thought of how many stories could I speak of? And I'm like, well, I have a limited amount of time, so you aren't going to hear various things of that. And if I had a tombstone, it would probably be on it, following spirit no matter what. Then I found out that the heart chakra for today was going to be the heart and green. And again, I went, okay, well, that's who and what I am. And, there are two seemingly coincidences, but there is no such thing as a coincidence. It's basically God winking. So God is definitely doing some winking and saying, there is something behind the scenes. And are we tapped in and tuned in? That's what today's talk is going to be about. So, guidance. How many of you would like to have more guidance in your life? Raise your hands. Those folks online, I can see I have x-ray vision. I have supervision, as somebody asked me the other day. How's your supervision of others? And I was like, oh, I have supervision, but I can see your hands are going up. Anybody not want more guidance? You can raise your hand. Nobody's raising your hand. We'd all like to have guidance in our life. I know I would. To have guidance 24/7, 100% of the time. That's what I aspire, to know that I am continually guided and tapped into that guidance. Now, the word guidance in itself is a fascinating word, and you may have heard of this before. But when you look at the word guidance, you might see the last 5 letters are the word dance, right? So there's a dance. But then you look at G, U, I, and then dance. Well, if you look at G, representing God, and then followed by you and I. So therefore, you have God, you and I dance, right? So it's a great word, and being a minister, we are fascinated by words and such. So guidance, God, you and I dance. Now, in dancing, if you have partner dancing, because there's many forms of dancing. By the way, are there any dancers in the house? Okay, we got some dancers in the house. Dancers online? Yeah, okay, great. So in partner dancing, usually you have somebody who is the lead, because we're talking about the word follow. And when you have the word follow, it suggests that there needs to be something to follow or someone to follow. Therefore, that's why I thought of dancing, because there's a lead in the dance, and then there is one that follows. And if you ever had dancing with a partner and you're both trying to lead, how is that? I think that's pretty disastrous. Stepping on each other's toes, it's not going to work. What if you have 2 folks that are in partner dancing and they're nobody's leading? Well, if nobody's leading, you don't have any dancing going on, right? There's no dancing if no one's leading. So the idea is that we're dancing with the divine, and in that dance, first of all, we need to know where is spirit, and I'm going to come down a step. I feel closer to you. Being up here, I'm like, I want to be closer. Don't be shy, right? So, in dancing with the divine, what was I saying? See what happens when you come down a layer? You're like, your mind, oh, my mind is still up there. Maybe I'll step back up here and go. And what were you saying about dancing? Oh, I know. Where is spirit located? Okay, So it's everywhere, but it's really important to know that Spirit is located inside of us and isn't just in us. The word is as us. And it's sometimes tough to say, well, the divine is us. That just seems to be a lot to step into. But we here in Unity, the principles are, number one, God, the divine spirit, whatever you call that, love intelligence, is everywhere present. There's no spot where God, the divine, is not. It's in the material, it's in the tangible, or in the invisible. And that means principle number 2 in Unity teachings, therefore, I am the divine in expression. And so are you. And so is everyone. And it's sometimes hard to see the divine in folks that are having interesting behaviors, right? And that's okay, because we have all our parts. And so everyone is the divine. Everyone, I like to say, is a unique, individualized expression of spirit, of love. We are all energy centers of this spirit. So we know that that is within us. The question is, how do we tap into that? How do we get into that? And would you like to know, there's a sandwich. Some of you might be sandwich eaters or in the past. Some may not. But there's a sandwich that can help you actually follow spirit in a greater way, no matter what. Did you know that? Would you like to know what that sandwich is? Yeah. Okay, if you don't want to know, that's okay too. I'm not here to force feed anyone. So here we are. What is that sandwich? And of course, you can have gluten-free bread if that works for you, or a lettuce wrap. But we're going to go with the infamous, we've all heard of a BLT, right? BLTs. That's your bacon, lettuce, and tomato. And nowadays, if you go to some places, they'll have plant-based bacon for those that are vegan or vegetarian. So that's your traditional BLT. Now, what you have to have in order to follow spirit no matter what. This is called the follow spirit no matter what sandwich, your BLT. Your first, the B, you must believe. You must believe that there is an energy that is here to guide us. Because if you don't believe it, then forget about it. You're not going to have guidance, because the great master way shower, Jesus, says, it's done unto you as you believe. And there are other teachers, master teachers, that say the same thing, different wording. So if we're believing that we can be guided, we shall be guided, and to accept that. But if you don't believe it, then how are you going to receive it? I love words that rhyme, and I find it very interesting that when you conceive and believe, then, and only then, can you receive and achieve. So you believe, you conceive and believe something, and then you can receive it and achieve it. But the belief has to come first. And so my question is, how much do you believe that you're guided? Are you being guided? Do you believe it? Could you believe it more? Or is there a part of you that sometimes wonders, and that's okay? There was a doubting Thomas, part of us. A little quick story about belief for myself, and part of my being here today is to share about me. I'm going to give you some points and some food for thought, and as well as just share about myself. There was a time when I was working in a factory with plastic strapping. I was the 7 at night to 7 in the morning we were winder operators of plastic strapping. And one day they opened up this position, and they got in with the paycheck, we're going to open up a warehouse in LA. Well, at this time I'm living in Ashtabula, Ohio, which is just east of Cleveland on Lake Erie, a small town. And I said, that's my job. Now, I didn't know what an affirmation was. I had no clue what an affirmation was, but I kept saying, that's my job. Now, there was a little part of me, very little, that said, well, what if it's not? I'm like, whatever. That's what I tell you, whatever. And that's my job. And I just affirmed that. And there was some part of me that believed that, so much so that when we had an informal meeting with the group of higher-ups to tell us about the position, and I just was there with about 10, 12 others, and they said, well, we're going to call you in the middle of the week to check and see what your skill level is, because you're going to be a professional forklift driver. You need to be able to type, use the fax, and basically you're a one-man or woman show. And it's in a warehouse. And that's my job. Well, they didn't call us in. They called me that night and said, basically, they said, do you have your bags packed? And I'd been sleeping all day because I worked the night shift. And I said, yeah, I got my bags packed. Oh, you know? I said, no, what? We've chosen you. I'm like, yes. So the power of an affirmation, they really wanted a guy, to be honest, because this is in East LA, a warehouse, professional forklift driver. I wasn't really a forklift driver. I was a winder operator. But they chose me. The power of belief. So it's really powerful. So now we're going to move from that believing that you have guidance and there is something guiding you all the time and wants to guide you and is here to guide you and provide you with anything that you're asking or looking and seeking for. Okay, now we're moving to the L in the BLT of the following spirit, no matter what. Want to know what that is? Okay. The L is for listen. Listen. We know we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should be listening twice as much as we are speaking. And listening is a powerful, powerful presence. It's actually a skill that we need to practice. We weren't born with good, perhaps, listening skills. It needs to be learned. I have been in the practice of learning what it means to listen, because it's different than hearing. Hearing is sounds. The difference is that listening, you add intention. Listening is to listen to the sounds with the intention to understand another person, to clarify, to connect. So having that intention to hear somebody without my own mental stuff and not listening to my wanting to respond. So there's 3 places that we listen, and we're called to listen. We're called to listen to one another. And that takes practice. It takes some skill. I've had plenty of opportunities to listen, to really be curious and to hear somebody else. Because really what we all want is to be gotten. To just be heard, not given advice, just to feel that you got it, me, you understood me. So to listen to others is important. To listen to ourselves and our hearts. And the big one that I'm speaking of today is to listen to the divine. Now, I don't know about you, but I have voices in my head. And they're not just voices that are talking audibly. They're what they really are aspects of myself. I've got a part that could be scared, part that could be excited, part that could be sad, part that could be tired. They all have different voices, and those are the different thoughts, speaking from those different aspects. Which one is the divine, right? Do you want to know? Which one is really spirit talking? I actually have a workshop that is a signature workshop that is called the Still Small Voice. It is something that I love to present. It is powerful, and you'll have to have me back in order to move into, right? Just saying. So I can't give you, I can only have 20 minutes that I'm supposed to be able to give you what I am to give you, and my goal was not to give you too much, and because that could give you indigestion, right? The buffet. So I have to have meals and only eat so much. I don't want you walking out with a stomach ache. So to listen to spirit, and I have stories that I could tell you about listening to spirit. And I'm going to have to keep it briefer because I do want to honor time, and that's important. So here's one of the things that I had, and I'm not going to talk about the India because that'll take me too far into tomorrow. It's that I was called to go to India. I had no desire to go to India, but Spirit wanted me to go to India. But I'm going to go to the part that prior to the story of being called to go to India, Spirit said to me, and I've done this practice before, because Spirit sometimes instructs me, for the next 30 days, call someone and ask them for prayer. You want to change your life? Call a different prayer chaplain or minister for 30 days and ask for prayer. It will shift your life. So if you don't want to have your life turned around, don't do it. So anyway, I've done that practice. But one day, Spirit says to me, Liz, for the next 30 days, I want you to ask people for money. I'm like, what? No, what? You're out of your mind. And Spirit said, I want you out of your mind. You can ask for prayer for 30 days, but you can't ask for money. What is up with that? You have some sort of thing around asking for money. You better believe it, I did. Spirit wanted to break me out of that. So the first day I was going to start this asking someone for money, I went to the church in Huntington Beach where I was serving, and a prayer practitioner was there, and I was sweating, seriously. I was like, because asking for money just seemed embarrassing and shameful on some level of my being. And I went up to the prayer practitioner and I said, do you have $1 I can have? And she said, sure. And she gave me $1, and I was like, oh, okay then. The next day, I'm in Newport Beach, California. I was running an errand. I got out the car and ran the errand, and I hear this. How do I know it's Spirit? Because it's not coming from anything that I would think that I would think. And so, and it says, before you get in the car, you have to ask somebody for money. I'm like, oh, not again. And so now I have to ask a stranger for money, and I'm also on a timeline. So I went into a store, and I said, do you have 50 cents I could have? They gave me 50 cents. And I'm not giving them any explanation. The next day, day 3, I'm in Whole Foods, Seal Beach. And I get, before you leave the store, you have to ask 3 people for money. I'm like, I hate you, God. This is ridiculous. Right? I'll tell you, my relationship with the divine is something else. And we understand. Spirit goes, I love you no matter what. You can say, I hate you, God. I still love you because I'm love itself. So I have to go up to 3 different people. You have 50 cents I could have? Now, I didn't get, and it wasn't about getting the money. It was about breaking some sort of thing that I had internally about asking for money. And so it didn't matter if they gave me the money, and all 3 people said no, and I'm like, it was fine, but I did what I was being asked to do by listening to Spirit, who was telling me these things. Then I actually had this invitation to India, and I was needing to pray on it because I didn't have $8,500 to go with this spiritual adventure tour to India. And there's more backstory again. So I called up, and I was on prayer because I'm like, I don't want to go into debt over something like this. So I called the prayer practitioner the first day I went. Do you have, can you do prayer for me? And do you have $8,500 I can have? And Carol said, no, what's going on? I said, well, I'm supposed to be going to India and basically looking for prayer. Is this the right thing? The day that I made a decision to actually commit to going to India, I hadn't told anybody. I was going to go to the church, call on the 1-800 number, and give them a $500 deposit. I walk into the church. Prayer practitioner named Steve was there, and he walked up to me, and he pulls out of his pocket a piece of paper, and he goes, here, this is for India, and it was a check for $100. Now, I hadn't even told anybody I was committed to doing this. This is what happens when one is listening and following the Spirit. Okay, we got the believing and the listening, right? Now we're going to go to the T of our BLT, following Spirit no matter what. This is a big one, and I love it. And it's probably one of my major words. You want to know what the T is? Okay, just seeing if you're awake. You're with me. You're online? Yes. Okay, I heard you. The T in BLT for following Spirit no matter what? Trust. Trust. Now, I had a New Year's Day retreat I had that actually every year for 14 years. And at New Year's Day retreat, we did a meditation about what is our word for the year, and one year I got trust. And so one day I was like, I wonder what the acronym for trust is. I'm thinking, I got to fill in the T and the R and the U and the S and the T. And I thought it would be a mental thing. Well, what I got was, as soon as I had the thought or the question, what's the acronym for trust? Immediately, the next breath, I got to rely upon Spirit totally. That's what I said. I was just like, what? I was a little irritated because I didn't get to play with it mentally, right? And Spirit goes, that's from the divine. It was you could say download. I'm saying it's an upload. To rely upon Spirit totally. That's trust. And then I have a minister friend who has an acronym for trust, and hers is totally relying upon Spirit's timing. Okay? Both of them. So I'm like 2 hands, 2 acronyms for trust. So, to rely upon Spirit totally relying upon Spirit's timing. So trust is so important. I'm going to give you a short little piece about the times where I have done things like quit a job with no job in sight, right? I was a child care counselor for abused and neglected kids for many years, and I think the most amount of years I was with them, 9 years, it was the night shift. Kids are angels. I got paid to study and get all my degrees and such. But I was making $15 an hour, which was a pretty good rate at that time, and I just basically was working there, and I needed to move off of it. I needed to stop doing that so that I could do more of God's work, whatever that was. And I remember turning in my notice. And then I had the fear bunnies jumping around. You ever have the fear bunnies? Like, what are you doing? You're quitting your job and you don't have any income. You have nothing lined up. What are you, out of your mind? There's that question again. I was like, and one day at the fitness center, I'm doing crunches and I'm going to do some ab work. And those fear bunnies turned into fear dragons. What are you doing? You're quitting your job and you have nothing lined up. You're crazy. You shouldn't do that. Well, because I know if I fear something, I'm actually going to bring that on. Because we talk about whatever we're vibrating at is actually what we're going to attract. I don't want to attract what I fear. Spirit, bless her heart. And yeah, she's genderless and genderful, and so she gets he and she. But so Spirit speaks to me and gives me a mantra to help contradict that fear dragon and such. The mantra was, God is my source in whom I am trusting. God is my source in whom I do trust. God is my source in whom I am trusting. God is my source in whom I do trust. It sounds like the lions and tigers are bear. It has some rhythm. So I would say that over and over and over again until I calmed down. And I would emphasize different words. God is my source in whom I am trusting. God is my source in whom I do trust. It's the 2 aspects of I am trusting, which is a verb. It's an action. I am trusting. And then it is a fact. I do trust. So I covered both bases. So I want you to say that with me. God is my source in whom I am trusting. God is my source in whom I do trust. Now I give that to you, so if you want to use that, it's of course universal, that you find yourself, and just see if that doesn't bring you back into your center. So now you've got the BLT. You must believe, listen, and trust in order to follow Spirit. No matter what. No matter what. My being here is following Spirit. No matter what. I don't have another job lined up. I've already been in the process of releasing where I've been serving in Fort Collins. And I'm trusting. God is my source in whom I am trusting. God is my source in whom I do very good. We work well together. So now that you have been presented your BLT of following Spirit, no matter what. It's time to take it and ingest it or digest it. And we're going to do that through some meditation so that you can let the words that have been spoken now move. And I'll be leading you in a meditation so that you can let this land in your body. I always like to know that we're going from the mental into the heart where we plant this, and then we embody it. We embody the believing, we embody the listening, and we embody the trusting. And bless you. So, I invite you to take a breath, close your eyes. And just notice your breath. Notice the gentle rhythm of inhalation and release. And as we become present to the breath, to that presence that is actually breathing us, we are being breathed by divine love. It's in our breath. It's in our minds. It's in our bodies. It's in the air that we breathe. It's in the seats that we sit upon. There's a love intelligence so vast and so deep and so very present. And so we open our hearts, our heart chakras, to the infinite love that is breathing us, flowing through us. And in truth is us. And we focus now on the guidance and our belief. And we deepen now as we just contemplate, believing that we are guided always, and to expand in that idea, letting Spirit fill us, And you might just repeat silently to yourself, I believe. I believe. And because we believe, we open the ears of the heart. We open our minds with the intention to listen to that still small voice as we ask a question. What is it I need to know that I don't already know? And we listen. What is it that I need to know that I don't already know? Let us listen. And knowing that Spirit speaks in many ways, that we keep those ears open as we move through this day, knowing answers and guidance are there. And because we are willing to trust, we stay open in our trusting by asking the question of the one that is breathing us. What's the one thing I need to do today? And we listen. And we take what we hear as we listen and believe, knowing that trust often implies an action. And so we take these to our heart where they've already been. We've just opened to the one that is breathing us, believing, listening, and trusting, knowing it is all God. It's all the divine in expression. And we give thanks, knowing that this and even greater is already so. We accept it, we believe it, we receive it, as we say together, and so it is.